Welcome to Bridge the Atlantic, where we get to know the people behind the creative industries. We're your hosts, music web designer Ross Barber-Smith, owner of Electric Kiwi, where we create awesome custom websites for bands, artists, and musicians.
And I'm singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist, Marcin Novelli. If you'd like to be a part of my new solo album, If you'd like to be a part of my new solo album, please visit marcinnovelli.com/pledge.
This week we're joined by inspirational poet, writer, speaker, and podcaster, Brian Thompson. Brian is the host of the Zen Thinking podcast and the author of the soon-to-be-released book, Sparks to Awaken. His goal with Zen Thinking is to provide an entirely new perspective for people to consider their life through, one that allows them to live more wisely, with compassion, purpose, clarity, and happiness.
Before shifting to writing full-time, Brian spent close to 25 years in the music industry. He managed a chain of music retail stores, started a record label and artist management company, and tour managed a successful hard rock band. We're excited to hear about Brian's work and how the philosophies he's explored through his writing can be applied to creative professionals. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thanks for having me, you guys. How are you?
Not too shabby.
We are doing pretty well. I'm pretty... I want to say starstruck to have you on the show because I know Marcio and I have admired your work for a long time back from the days of Thorny Leader and now the transition you've made into Zen Thinking as well.
Oh, he definitely inspired the show. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
That's very cool.
One of the handful of people I think that inspired the idea of doing what we do and to kind of pass it on, you know what I mean, and keep something going for the entertainment industry.
That's really cool, and I'm glad that there's a dual country perspective coming at the audience, just like what I used to do. So it's very cool.
We just ripped you off. So let's we love everything you do, and I love the direction where you've come from and where you've gone. But I'd like you to tell us 3 things about yourself that everyone should know.
3 things about myself that everyone should know. You know what? That's actually everything that I'm trying to get away from. Let's start there.
Wow.
Is because I had the realization a few years ago that I am not who I think I am, nor is anybody. And that is the one thing that kept me suffering throughout my entire life, was trying to maintain this image that I thought that I had created for myself, believing that I was my past experiences, believing that I was my former job, my former problems, or whatever. And when you awaken to the truth that you are not what you think, you are not your history, you are only who you are right now, what else is there to tell?
Why do I feel like you're kind of walking a line between something Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra would teach and Fight Club? And I mean that in the most respectful way. I love it.
Well, I mean, that's,
you kind of walk that line.
Eckhart Tolle was, for many people, he was someone that, was, so to speak, a spark to awaken. Mm-hmm. And he, when I read Power of Now, whenever that was, many years ago, it kind of realigned me back onto the path of Zen thinking that I initially was intrigued with way back in high school, but then I dropped as I, was exploring the world.
Of course, I completely agree with you, or I can relate with you on that one. Power of Now is a really important book for me. It always brings me back, if that makes sense. We pull away and it brings me back and I feel like it brings me to where I'm supposed to be in here, Exactly. Well, I mean, that's exactly what, I think all spiritual teachings really do. They use different language. They use different pointers to bring you to that place. But, it's important to realize that no matter where you are, there you are. And that is, your experience in life is always and only and ever your own consciousness. So if you are avoiding your own presence of consciousness, then you are avoiding your own truth, your own reality, and you are ignorant to the reality of yourself, which causes you to suffer. So that's, I guess kind of a gist of what I spend my time writing about, is exploring these concepts of being and these realizations of
consciousness, which is the true self, not these imagined ideas of who we think we are. So back to your original question, 3 things about myself. How about I give you 2?
Okay.
We'll take 2.
Such a rebel.
I am. And that's
I love
it.
that. There you go.
That's really the only truth that can ever be spoken on this planet. Everything else other than I am is a concept. And if I were to say there's a goal with the work I do with Zen Thinking, is to try to help uncover the truth for other people to realize so that they're not so bogged down by their conceptualizations of who and what they are. When really, I am. That's it.
And that's enough.
That's enough. Anything I added on to that is just trouble.
It's true. It really is.
I'd like to talk a little bit about your transition from working in the music industry to what you do now.
Sure.
I was on your Facebook profile earlier and I read this quote and I kind of wondered if this relates to your decision. So the quote is a T. Alan Armstrong quote. And if there is no passion in your life, then have you really lived? Find your passion, whatever it may be. Become it and let it become you, and you will find great things happen for you, to you, and because of you. So did that was it the passion part that maybe led you away from music into Zen thinking, or?
Absolutely. Many years ago, before I had deeper realizations, I did have the realization that I needed to live my life with passion. And as soon as I realized that my passion was waning, I needed to start doing something different. And through my work in music, I realized that I was becoming jaded and I wasn't finding the joy and passion that I once had. And the more that I, started to explore these teachings of non-duality and Zen, I realized that a lot of the work that I was doing was trying to boost other people's egos. And I realized, well, that's the cause of all the problem. I had nothing against music, but I was like, all the people that were hiring me, I shouldn't say all, many of the people that were hiring me were, help me to become a star. I want to be a star. And they really, I felt they weren't in it for the music. They were in it for their ego. And I didn't want to, I wanted to distance myself from all things that were ego-based. So as I, went further down that path, I realized that, my true passion was something that I realized when I was 10 years old, which was writing. And that I had never really given myself an opportunity to explore that passion. Blogging for music marketing, I didn't consider writing. That was blogging, and that was trying to make a living off of something that I knew and that I knew well. But I wasn't passionate about it, and I wanted to really explore the artistic side of exploring my own consciousness through writing. So that's when I decided to just pack it all in and say, you know what, it's time for a change. Because I'd been living my life, my entire adult life, and even my teenage life, I was observing my life through one particular lens, just this very, very narrow point of view. And to be honest, I was very unhappy with that point of view. No matter what success I had or didn't have, I always seemed to be unhappy underneath. And I didn't feel like I could continue on another 40 years being that unhappy, even though I thought that I was doing what I loved. So when I realized that my truth wasn't what I thought it was, I needed to try to reveal that. So where did my passion lie? And I realized that it was, going back into my childhood, it's like, writing and exploring and sitting with myself and seeing what could come out of my own head. So yeah, it was all about passion.
That really resonates with me. I have taken time to sit back and ask myself, my goals, career goals, my artistic goals, are they ego driven? It's a real, I think everyone could sit back and ask, are your goals in life ego-driven? Or are they coming from a different place, And I found that some aspects, the idea of being seen and, that is ego-driven. And the other side of it, just wanting to make art, being able to do that for a living is not ego-driven, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's
that side of it.
Yeah, and I think when there's pure, I mean that's why the word authenticity is so revered in any creative industry, is because when something is truly authentic and pure, then it is coming from a place of absolute expression, and it's not a mirror or a projection device of one's attempt to bolster and boost their own ego. And if you're coming from a place that is purely ego-driven, then the art won't be authentic. And no matter what highs or success you may experience, your crash will be devastating. Is because any heights that you reach in life, they're impermanent. Everything is impermanent.
Absolutely.
So no matter how high you get, if it is purely based upon making your ego feel well, then what happens when you start to come down the other side of that mountain?
And also, it's never enough.
It's never enough. I mean, that's what the hedonic treadmill. I don't know if you're familiar with that concept, but the hedonic treadmill is, is just that. Is that the wanting never ends. You want, especially with anything. The more that you want, you get it, and then you're happy for just a little brief moment, and then it starts to wear off, and you're no longer excited by what you once had. So then you want something more, something bigger, something shinier, something prettier, something whatever, and then you get it or you don't get it. If you get it, you're happy for a brief moment until that wears off, and then you want something again. Or if you don't get it, you're devastated because you think you're a failure because you didn't get it, and then you curl up in a ball and become depressed.
I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the hedonic treadmill, and that's the endless cycle that so many people are spinning on, is that they, especially this capitalist, consumer-driven market culture that we're in, is all about consumption. And consumption is, it's right there within the word. When you consume something, it's gone. Well, when it's gone, you're left hungry. So why not try to do something that is more fulfilling, that's lasting, that won't disappear? And that's actually always and only found within yourself, knowing yourself. And once you know yourself, your true self, not your idea of yourself, who this presence is that is seeing, that is hearing, that is smelling, that is apparently making music or writing words or whatever this seems to be happening through this body. When you know the truth of that, then everything becomes much more effortless, because you're not trying to maintain this character that you're trying to present and project to the world.
Was it a little bit frightening to go from being the person you were to the person you are now by being true to yourself, but having other people, I guess, suddenly see you as someone else? I guess the reason I'm asking this, because there might be some other people out there, I assume there's a lot of people out there not being true to themselves, because there's an expectation of themselves.
Absolutely, it was scary.
Particularly from other people, family, friends.
It was absolutely scary, but it was scarier to consider the alternative, which was me not being able to persist. Period.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're unhappy, there is an end to unhappiness, and either you deal with that unhappiness or it deals with you.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
And ultimately, when I decided to make this change, as most things, as all things happen, things just happen. And all of a sudden you realize you're in the midst of them. So I didn't really plan this. It just kind of happened. How it happened, really one of the real spark, so to speak, was me deciding to quit drinking.
Oh, wow.
And me quitting drinking was far scarier than saying goodbye to 25 years in the music industry, because I said goodbye to 25 years of drinking, which was who I was, who I thought I was. That I had my identity wrapped up much more in my drinking self than my music self. And when I quit drinking, guess what? All of those so-called friends disappeared because they weren't friends. So I had to marinate in that aloneness. I'm not going to say loneliness, but aloneness for quite a while before I realized that, oh, if I can handle this quite easily, actually, without any effort, I didn't even plan to quit drinking. And that's the thing, is that things just happen. You're not the one doing things. You're the one who observes the doing of the things. So one day I woke up and said, I'm not going to drink anymore. And then I didn't. And I realized how effortless that was. And I realized, wow, that was an entire change of perspective in my entire beingness. Wow, it's that easy? It's that easy? So then I started slowly changing other things. Actually, I quit smoking first. Then I quit drinking. Then I gave away my TV. Then I stopped reading newspapers. Then I stopped visiting, going to any news site online. I stopped. I became a vegan. I stopped eating meat and cheese and dairy literally overnight, without it just happened. And all of a sudden, I just realized it's really easy to change your life, because it's all just impermanent. It's all impermanent appearances. And we latch ourselves onto these things that we believe define us, but the only thing that defines us is our own definitions.
There's a quote.
So if you get rid of your own definitions, then what is there that you can just be? So I'm not concerned about anyone, because I now realize that anybody's opinion of me is their own opinion of themselves. And my opinion of others is something that's within me. It's not within them. So it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It only matters how I am in this moment. And that is my number one priority.
I think this is going to be our most soothing episode, because I can just listen to you speak for a very long time.
Well,
I really can.
Well, you know that there are. Is there 50 episodes of the Zen Thinking podcast out now?
Almost.
Yeah.
I'm getting close to it. Yeah.
So, Marcio, if you do want to listen to Brian on demand, there's a way to do that.
I have, and I will.
So, actually, speaking of the podcast, your goal with Zen Thinking is to provide an entirely new perspective for people to consider their life through. I think you've kind of told us quite a bit about that. So I maybe like to hear a bit more about the podcast itself and what people can expect from the show.
Well, like most things I do in my life, I didn't pre-plan it. I knew that I wanted to do a podcast. That's just something that I seem to like to do. So when I started Zen Thinking, it was like, okay, well, I probably should do a podcast. But as I hit record on the first episode, I didn't know what was going to happen. And what it's evolved into is really me reading all of the recent work that I've published on zenthinking.net. I write every day, whether it be poetry or mini essays or longer think pieces or whatever. And I essentially sit down and I read them. And then I discuss them a little bit. And that's really it. I think in almost 50 episodes, I've had 3 guests. So it's really mainly a solo affair of me. It's like an audiobook version of my website, I guess you might say, with, some banter, riffing in between, just to further explore some of the ideas.
Of course.
So, I don't know where, I actually just booked another guest, which I'll be recording in July. So I'm still going to have odd guests here and there, but I really like it as a solo platform primarily. I might start to fade away from reading and just start pontificating on the spot, which I enjoy. But I think I realize that because I write and publish so much every week, that it's not realistic to expect anyone to be able to read everything that I write. So everyone has busy lives, and not everybody has time to read a 10-minute long piece for me every day. So, once a week I can read them to you in your car.
I think that you're a man who follows your gut, and that seems to be a thread throughout our almost 100 episodes that we've done, is to follow your gut. And you followed your gut in everything. From we like to call it the gut brain, don't we, Ross?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
we do. Trademark.
Yeah.
Just following that, and you said that we can relate with this show. We just wanted to do a show, and it's like, let's just do it and let it evolve as it evolves. And I think that's kind of what you've done too. And it's almost when you follow your gut, you can't go wrong. Even if you do go wrong, it's like you were doing it for the right reasons. You know what I'm trying to say? You just followed your gut, and you followed that true. Maybe that's where the am lives. Just joke. I'm going off here, but
that there is no wrong.
Of course not.
So all that there is what is. So as long as you go with your gut, then there's nothing wrong. Is because you're following the only path that's there for you.
How can the Zen thinking approach, how can it be applied to people in the creative world, the music industry, the film industry, anyone that's doing a creative art, I guess? How do you think that can benefit them?
Well, it can benefit every person on the planet because it is the truth of our reality. And to deny or be ignorant of that truth of your own self, your own presence, your own vitality of what your beingness is that you experience, and that's all that you to ignore that is to make everything much more difficult in your life. So, for example, in the case of any artistry or sport or whatever, one of the most revered so-called states of mind is the flow state. And the flow state is Zen, because the flow state is no mind. It is no thinking. It is just doing. When musicians get off the stage, and one of the reasons why they keep pursuing that bliss that they feel on stage is because they are experiencing their true self, which is pure consciousness without any thought. They're in the flow state of just being, just doing, which whatever their body seems to be doing. And if you're playing guitar or singing or whatever, that's what you're doing. It might be different for lead singers who bring an ego to the stage. Just kidding.
Well,
no, you know what I mean? Like when you see someone who's like just totally lost in the moment, and the audience is feeding off of that. There's a reason for that, because that is truth. That person is living their truth in that moment. They're not conceptualizing anything. So it makes, to bringing the Zen state of mind, so to speak, into your music, into your art, is the authenticity that everyone is looking for.
As a songwriter, man. Sorry,
but the beauty is that as long as you look for it, you don't get it. You need to realize that it is what you are. There's nothing to search for. You just need to uncover it by discarding all of the crap that you've put on top of it.
I was just going to say, as a songwriter, any song that I end up loving, that's flowed through me, happens like that. All the ones you try to sit there and you're going to make it scrapped, even if you spend months on it, but the one that's just that 10 minutes or a half hour, it's just, you almost feel like you're cheating something because it happened so fast, but it is real. That's why it flowed through you.
Absolutely. And I think some of the greatest pop songs in history have come out that way. You hear all of the greats say, I wrote that song in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Beatles have said that countless times.
Oh yeah, I've heard the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, any band, they say, I don't know, it just seemed to come through me. It's like, well, what they don't it's like, yes, you are absolutely correct. It did just come through you.
Yeah.
But the thing to realize is that everything just comes through you. You just conceptualize certain things, and you wrap little concepts around these other things that are happening through you, but you limit them. You try to stop them in their tracks.
Oh, I can't do that. That's not in my genre. I can't do this. That people won't like that. I'm just looking at it from like a songwriter's point of view, because I've heard these thoughts before, and you let that go, and this is off. The thoughts are off, and that something magical happens.
My experience is that the more you think, the tougher things become.
Now, Brian, I know there's no wrong, and I know you don't like choosing sides, but just bear with us here, just for fun, for 20 questions. I'm gonna ask that you pick one or the other, okay? Please.
Sure.
All right, here we go. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Meat or veggies? We know this one.
Veggies.
TV or Netflix?
Netflix.
Twitter or Facebook?
Oh, this is painful, you guys. A few years ago, I would have said Twitter, but Facebook seems to be my platform of choice these days.
Yoga or yogurt?
Yoga.
Canada or Scotland?
Well, I've only been to Scotland for 24 hours, and I've been in Canada for 44 years, so I'll say Scotland.
Vega or Sun Warrior?
Vega.
Poetry or photography?
They're the same thing.
Sunrise or sunset?
Again, they're the same thing.
Talent or attitude?
Attitude.
Eckhart Tolle or Deepak Chopra?
Totally.
CD or vinyl?
Vinyl.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Sleeping or meditation?
Sleeping is meditating.
Michael Jackson or Michael Bolton?
You guys, we seriously got to talk about your questions here.
Now, I know you've been to both of these recently. Iceland or Alaska?
Iceland. I mean, Iceland was pretty amazing.
Really, eh?
Yeah, well, so was Alaska, but Alaska is it is an extension of where I live right now. So it's Alaska felt very homey, and Iceland was a completely different planet.
Guacamole or hummus?
Oh, dude, as a vegan, you can't ask these questions.
That's why I'm asking it.
I'll say hummus because hummus is the vegan's cheese.
Whale or kale?
Whale.
Really? I eat kale every day. I thought you.
Well, so do I. Okay. I eat kale every day, and I look for whales every day.
But see, I'm jealous of that. I don't care if that's ego coming in. I'm jealous that you get to see whales every day.
If I look right here, I might see a whale.
No way.
I didn't. Just awesome. Last week, I saw a killer whale, and I saw I think we had a count of probably about 25 humpbacks that we saw on our trip to Alaska. So seeing a whale or any ocean mammal is for me, a very transcendent and psychedelic experience, because like just yesterday, there was, almost every day I see a seal pop up, and it's just like this little human pops up. And it just looks at you, and you look at it, and it's like you're looking at yourself. It's literally, it's the same consciousness. Two consciousnesses looking at each other, and it's actually one consciousness looking at itself, which is a real trip. When you see this little head pop up in the ocean, you're like, oh, that's me.
I love that. I really, really, really love that. And I kind of really want to go visit where you're living right now and just sit there for a few days. Bette Midler or the Riddler? They rhyme. Sorry, Brian. I'm sorry to disappoint you. This is just based on rhyming.
I grew up with comics, so the Riddler.
And the final question.
Actually, I had a Riddler action figure. I was going to call him a doll, but action figure. I got really offended when my family would call it a doll. It's an action figure. It was about this big. It was an action figure from the 70s Batman or 60s, whatever it was, and he was dressed in these really weird polyester pajamas. It was like a little Ken doll, but it was the Riddler with a black mask. And so yeah, Riddler. I didn't have a Bette Midler doll.
This is why we ask these questions, because you learn things about people
We get
that
these
you
little
otherwise would
stories.
never learn. The last question, which I'd be shocked if you answered. Do you even bother asking them this one? I'll let you
Well,
do
we
the
have
honors,
to
Russ.
complete the set, you know.
We have to.
We're collectors. We have to complete.
We have to ask you this.
So it's Ross or Marcio.
Bridge the Atlantic.
Correct answer. You
That is
passed.
the best answer we've gotten, and I mean that. Most people actually pick, and it's a trick question. You're not supposed to pick. That's awful.
Well, you see, when there's a
People
bridge, the two becomes one.
Yes, this is true.
So,
That's what this is all about.
yeah.
You've just been phenomenal, man. Really. You have that thing. And when I mean that thing, you're conscious, man. I get the same thing listening to you as I do listening to Eckhart Tolle, or Deepak Chopra, or many, or other wonderful spiritual teachings. You just, because you mean it and you really are there, So
I appreciate it.
well, I appreciate that you've helped nudge me in that right direction that I may have gone astray from, recently. I think everyone needs to go to zenthinking.net and experience your wisdom. And you're on Twitter and Instagram as Zen_thinking.
Yeah, Twitter and Instagram, Zen_thinking. Facebook, Facebook.com/Zen Thinking. And Facebook is where I seem to be the most active these days. It's, I've done a few live broadcasts there, and I do stuff on Periscope now and then too. I'm actually probably in the next few days, I'm going to be launching a Patreon campaign.
Oh, nice. Very good.
Which, it's something I'd been toying with for quite some time, and I decided to just go with it. So, so that, of course, you can look for Zen Thinking on Patreon as well.
We definitely will. And as for me, I'm working on my second solo album. You can be part of that at marcinovelli.com/pledge. I also recently released my award-winning documentary, Walking Proof, which chronicles the making of my debut solo album. You can watch that for free at marcinovelli.com/walkingproof. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, all those fun places, which are all my name, Marcin Novelli.
And I'm working on websites for various artists at the moment. You can check out my work and my blog at electrickiwi.co.uk. You'll find me on Twitter and Instagram as Electric Kiwi, and Facebook, Electric Kiwi Design. This episode was brought to you by Chris Keaton, the Rockstar Advocate, Buck Naked Soap Company, and Social Surge. All are fantastic companies, and their links are in the show notes, so please check them out. And if you'd like to sponsor the show, visit patreon.com/bridgetheatlantic. And as a side note, Buck Naked Soap Company is a vegan soap company out of Southern Ontario, and I've actually been sent their stuff, and it's fantastic. Seriously, Brian, this has been great, man.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching Bridge the Atlantic. If you like what you saw, make sure to like, favorite, and most importantly, subscribe so that you don't miss each week's episode. Please feel free to leave us a comment letting us know what you think of the show. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and subscribe to us on iTunes so that you can listen to us on the go. Thanks again for being awesome, and we'll see you on next week's episode.